All right, so today we're in Transformers, Sega, Transformers Human Alliance. Really good game. People love this game. Problem we have with this game right now is that a lot of things are just messed up on it. You know, got a lot of broken plastic here, broken plastic there. There's not much we can do for that. We might be able to maybe crazy glue it and it'll hold until I can get a new one to replace it with. But I think that's about all we could possibly do for it. Other things that are messed up are the guns. This gun right here doesn't work anymore. That gun is still working. They've told me that they've tried to calibrate this gun, and no matter what, it doesn't want to calibrate. But if we look underneath the bottom, you can see where it's like totally been demolished. I mean, it's from guests or children coming in here. They're doing this with the gun. It tends to really put a strain on the back, so all this has all been bent up, so I'm gonna have to replace probably this whole bottom piece of metal here. I'm not sure what else is damaged. I'm gonna have to take things apart just to try and figure out what else is damaged in there. Potentiometer could possibly be damaged, or maybe a wire is probably broken. Can't tell until I get in there. This one seems to be kind of okay, but I'll replace that one as well. That way they both look the same and they don't look different. This gun's still working, but I'll make it look nice. I'll get a new boot and new bottom metal or whatever to get it to look good. So I guess right now what we need to do, oh yeah, you can also see this whole thing you can move. You're not really supposed to be able to do that. Let's see if I can show you this whole everything is moving. So I'm gonna have to figure out why everything is moving, and then bolt it back down or something so it doesn't move around like that, because that is dangerous. You know, somebody can definitely get their finger pinched in there. You know, that's a pretty hard pinch. Some little kid puts his finger in there. You know, so his brother or his dorky friend lifts up on this for no reason and lets it down. That kid's gonna be yelling. Why? Because it happened to me. I was yelling because I got my finger crushed in there. Let me see if you can see it. Right there, see? Crushed it. Boom. Anyways. Alright, so let's take off some of this plastic and take a gander in there and see what's going on. Hopefully it's just a bunch of missing screws or screws that are just loose or something like that, and then we can just tighten them all down and then be done with it. So let's get going. Let's take off this plastic. Alright, so we got the plastic off, and man, how this happens I have no idea. So the two bolts that hold pretty much this all together fell out. I find that weird that they've fallen out, but we do get a lot of people that just kind of like bash these games, and vibrations definitely will fall out. But along with these two being had fallen out, which I'm glad I found, luckily they stayed in there. I have one that's missing on this side. I have one that's missing on this side. I have one that's missing on this side. This one over here is actually the only one left holding this whole top together. So I gotta go try to find the bolts, or try to find some kind of bolt that will work so I can put it on the sides and be able to bolt down this whole countertop again. Again, of course, as you have things open, you might as well go ahead and clean things out. So let's go ahead and try to find new hardware. Let's try and bolt this back down so that way that'll be safe, and then we can continue on with trying to figure out why this gun is not working. All right, so let's go ahead and bolt some things down. All right, so I found as much hardware as I could find. I even went and looked in my little hardware drawer of just miscellaneous bolts, screws, and nuts that I find throughout the day. So I put these two back in, so that's good to go. That's not gonna come out anymore. The one that was right there, I moved over here to the front. I actually found the other one from this side in my tech room, in my little nuts and bolts bones yard. It's supposed to have four, you know, two in the front, two in the back. But I can't find the other one, so I'm probably gonna have to order some. But the fact that I had two is good enough. So I have two that are holding this whole top counter down in the back. Then I have two holding this part to the bottom part, and that's all good. So it won't lift up anymore. You can shake on it, and if you lift it up any higher than that, you're Hercules and you're about to break my game. So, but that's all good. So what's next is I also kind of these are the hold downs for the plastic that goes right here. They were all loose and stuff like that, and one of them is completely missing off, and the other one was all bent up. So I just removed that one and I straightened out the rest of them. The other four, those will be fine because it'll have screws holding those four areas down. Then I'll also have a couple of screws in the front here, so everything should be okay. I'll probably order a couple of those at a later time just to have them on hand. So from here, we had to do the plastic. So remember, the corners were busted out. So I crazy glued the corners real nice. They're all good. No problems. I sanded them down a little bit. No, it's not the prettiest thing, but you know, at least it's not cracked and broken anymore. So we can go ahead and slap this piece back on, and then we can start working on the guns, turn the game on, and test the guns and see what's going on. So let's go ahead and install this piece real quick. All right, so I'm about to put the plastic back on the front. It's easier to put these buttons back together with the panel off versus trying to stick your hand in from underneath and trying to adjust everything and lock them in place. These buttons do work a certain way. As you can see, it has those little tabs, and here it has these little channels, so the buttons only go in one way. Pops in, right? Now it's kind of crooked and you just got to turn it, and now it's perfectly in place. And that's it. So, you know, so when you take it out, you just kind of turn it this way and you can pop the whole thing out. Or put it back in, turn it, and it locks in place. And that's it. So now that you got your buttons back on, if you're trying to figure out which one's right and which one's left, just look at the tab. The tab will tell you which player is what. So you got your first player, you got your second player. Let's all put it back together. All right, so everything's back together. I want to test the guns, so I want to go into the test menu, and we can go to a couple different locations. So let's see, let's try to get to it. Let's go to game test mode. All right, so I want to go to input test first. Input test right here will allow me to, you know, touch all the buttons and turn things just to make sure that everything's working. So if you want to make sure that your buttons are working, you know, I'm pressing one of the start buttons and I know that one's working. I know the other one's working. Triggers are working. Triggers are working on those. You can see numbers moving as I turn the controllers. Even the one that's bad, you can see numbers move. So I know that's working. So let's move on from here. And I want to go into controller calibration, and right there you can check your calibration and even go into calibration. So just I'm gonna move this one out of the way. So as you can see, this one right here is good. So you know, it goes all the way to the left, all the way to the right. It goes all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. This one works really, really well. It even moves out of the way rather well. Well, this one over here, eventually, this one doesn't want to hang out, and it just kind of pops out on its own, and you can see it coming out. So I can move it all the way to the left, and right there, the gun is telling me that I'm stopped. And you can see that the line hasn't gone all the way to the left yet. But if I keep on pushing, yeah, I can get it to go all the way. So it's definitely telling me something is definitely wrong in here. Something is jammed, something is hitting something, I'm not sure. I got to take it apart to find out. But the fact that I can go over to one side and it's pretty much into the corner, you can see it kind of creeping up on its own, and I'll kind of bring it back, and then it'll kind of creep out on its own. Don't know why. I got to pull it all apart. Then I can go back to this side, and now I'm already jammed over to the one side, and you can see it hasn't gone all the way unless I really push it. So it'll allow me to turn to one side, but if I push harder, I can actually make the thing go even further on both. But as far as like calibration, I don't think the potentiometers are bad because you can still see them. I just think that this is all been tore up and bent up so much that it's not aligned anymore, and I won't allow it to because there's too many obstructions in the way for the gun to work correctly. So we're gonna go ahead and take that apart and take a look inside and see what's going on. See if there's anything we can fix right here, right now, to at least have the game up and running so I don't have to keep it down, or at least one side down. So if you want to do the calibration, you can go ahead and go start the calibration. Just got to select calibration and then follow the directions on the screen, and you should be good. I'm not going to worry about calibration at this point yet because I want to work on this gun right here to make sure that everything's okay. I want to be able to get it to work correctly without having to force it. You know, I don't mind if I have to rig something to work, but if it's too hard for someone to play it, then it's not worth rigging to work. So let's see what we can do. Let's take this gun apart, or at least the base. Let's take the base apart, see what's going on. All right, okay, so I had to remove this top piece of plastic again because as I was removing the cover for this gun housing here, I noticed that 2 screws were covered by the plastic, so I had to remove this to get to those. Anyways, so now that it's open, you can see the screen. Everything is moving quite nice and free now. There is no stops whatsoever. It goes up and down real nice. So I'm definitely convinced that that there is nothing wrong with any of the potentiometers that I have here. Here's one of them right here, if you can see it. It moves quite nicely, no problems. The other one is over here. We're up and down. That one moves quite nicely. Oops. So the problem is that a lot of the metal is bent, as you can tell right there. That blue stuff right there, God knows, I don't even know what the heck that is. That little black bar there, this little black bar right here, that's not supposed to be there. That's supposed to be straight across to this side. It's like the screw is missing out of here. That screws under this side. This is probably what allows, or doesn't allow, the gun to go all the way back. So somehow I gotta try and, I don't know, fix that or something like that. I'm not sure what I could do for it, but I'm gonna try to do something. Remove whatever that is in there. I don't know what the heck that is. Looks like garbage. Also, you can see that this is pretty bent, of course. I have to kind of bend that back into place or straighten it out. And then we have our other cover. You can see is completely tore up. Completely bent up. So I'm either gonna have to try and fix that real quick or replace it. Most likely I'm gonna fix it or get it fixed and then order a new one anyways. 2 of them just to kind of have it for the other side as well. So let's go ahead and start straightening things up and fixing things as best as possible, so at least we can have the game working, and then we can order our parts, and when they come in, we'll install them, so that way we don't have semi-fixed parts in these games. So let's continue what we're doing. Okay, so we're definitely making some progress here. I have been able to straighten some things out. I've straightened out this piece of metal up here. I used a pair of vice grips, and I sort of just kind of bent it back up. Yes, it is kind of cracked right there, and it is probably cracked over on this side. This will have to be replaced. I guess I can remove it and have it welded, but I would prefer not to weld this. I'd just rather get a new one. That way it's nice and strong. But for now, I gotta do what I gotta do. Anyway, so I bent this back into place. That allowed me to be able to fix these stoppers here, these little rubber stoppers. So you could see the bolts, screws, or whatever that was there, they broke. So it had like a little tiny head on one side. This side broke off, and that's what made this bend out, and then everything just started falling apart from there. So what I did was, if you can see right here, I went and found a longer bolt, or a bolt that would just fit and that would be long enough. Unfortunately, the one I found was extremely long. As you can see, it comes all the way out to here. But that's okay, because I just kind of use my Leatherman to cut it. So I just put a new one on there, and then I cut it at the end so that way it's nice and short. The stoppers are back in there. So if you want to know how to cut this with your multi-tool or Leatherman, I'll show you. Just give me 1 sec so I can set up right here real quick. Okay, so here we are. As you can see, I already cut this one off. Now I'm going to cut the top one off, just to shorten it so it's not so long. You don't really need a hacksaw. Hacksaws are kind of big anyways. I like to use my Leatherman. This is not a plug. They're not paying me for this, but this is the Leatherman Wave. This is the best tool I've ever had in my life. I love this tool. Anyways, let's go on. So I'm going to take my file, the file side right here, and just going to put it up against the actual nut here, and I'm just going to score it real quick. You don't have to cut all the way through. You just got to cut halfway or enough, and then just sort of bend the screw right off, and then that's it. You could go a little step further and file that down if you want it to, so that way it doesn't create some kind of problem later on down the road. But I don't think it will. Just to remove any small burrs. I don't really want to file them down too much, because I want them to kind of stay in place, almost kind of like welds itself together or something like that, Again, this is just temporary. Although I might make it I might see how long it will last before I replace it, So I'm gonna leave it there for quite some time. I'm gonna go ahead and order this whole new piece right here, and then when it comes in, I'll eventually will replace it. But I think for now this will hold. I think it looks okay. All right, so let's continue on. We have to kind of put the rest of the cover back on. We got to repair those covers as well, and then put them back on, and then hopefully we can do a calibration, and then play the game. Make sure it works out good. All right, let's continue going. All right, so I got this piece welded and fixed up as best as possible. It's I painted it, so it's a little tacky right now. But if you remember, all this was all busted out. Had to bang it all back together. This was all not even there anymore. So I just had to get the maintenance guys to weld it for me. It's not the most beautiful. It's really thin metal, so you gotta know what you're doing. I'm not a welder, so I didn't know what I was doing. That was my little mistake right there. As you can see, I almost burnt a hole in there. So I'm just gonna let this dry a little bit. As you can see in here, this is all ready, set to go. Those are in there. Those are good to go. I definitely feel like it's calibrated quite nicely. Everything seems to be working fine. Now actually, I don't think the calibration is all that great, because you can see right there, I'm going all the way down, and the blue bar, it hasn't gone all the way down like the other one does. See, the red one comes down all the way and goes all the way down. So I gotta recalibrate to fix that. Not a big deal. So once everything is dry, I can put everything back together, and then we'll calibrate it, and then we'll test it and play it. So let's go ahead and finish up a few other things, and then slap everything back together. All right, so calibration on this particular gun is not the greatest. Although I think the potentiometers are still good, I'm probably thinking now that they are kind of damaged. The front one right here, the potentiometer, when it gets all the way to its, to the left or to the right, you can actually keep on going and go past that point, and it resets itself. Normally that wouldn't even stop working. It shouldn't even work once it does that. Not all potentiometers are 360-degree turning. Some of them actually stop after a while, and then you got to go back the other way. But if your potentiometer is doing that when it's not supposed to, and it's still working, wow, that's pretty cool. Just like this one. So I think I'm having trouble with that potentiometer, and I think I'm having trouble with that potentiometer. But I do have, sorry about that, I do have it calibrated as best as possible. I mean, it's going to be slightly off, but it should be okay. All that's left now is to kind of put everything back together and test it for real to make sure that the game works correctly. So I have repaired all the metal that needs to be repaired. Potentiometers are calibrated as best as they're going to get. Unfortunately, I don't have any potentiometers for this game in stock, so I'm going to have to order some. All this that I'm doing to it, it may last, it may look good for a while, but I'm going to order a new one anyways, just because I just don't like the way it's working. Probably going to go ahead and order a whole new mechanism here for the gears and the potentiometer and the wires and all that crazy stuff. It looks really bent. Even though I've straightened it as best as I could, it looks really, really bent. So, but it's okay for now. I'll just buy the parts that I need. Everything here right now is fixed for the time being. It will work. So let's finish up, put the game back together, and test it out. Alright, so everything is back together. I have the game coined up because I'm going to test it real quick. Just so we can go over a few things. The counter is no longer moving. It's nice and tight. Everything is nice and tight. You cannot move the counter. You will not get your fingers crunched anymore. Alright, both buttons are working. Let's go ahead and test the one that isn't. Let's just put it fine. Alright, we know this gun over here works fine. Over here, back and forth, up and down, no problem. Sorry, I wasn't even showing you. Now we know this one works, seems to work too. Back and forth, up and down. I can see that it's a little weird, a little sketchy in some points, but that's just because it's the potentiometer that's bad. So, see, it's working, no problem. Yeah, it's a little funky in some spots, but a new potentiometer would definitely fix that. This one's definitely working. No problem. This one's working. I'm at the pause point. Okay, so everything's working, everything's back, everything's good. This gun is not 100%. I'm gonna give it maybe 90%. The potentiometers are stable, they're working, but they could be better. So I'm gonna leave it as fixed for now, but I'm gonna definitely order some more parts. I'm gonna order all the parts that I need pretty much to kind of rebuild the bottom half of this gun right here. New boots for both of them, and then hopefully that should take care of everything on this game. Well, I hope this helps you out in anything with this game. I know it wasn't the greatest repair job, but just showing you what goes on with some of these games and what to look for. I hope this helps you out, and thanks for watching.